Jessica Jones episode 2, aka Crush Syndrome. Definitely a cool episode with Jessica, going for the gold really in this one. Like, she's made her decision by the end of the first episode. She makes her decision. In this one, it's just her as an investigator. She's going through, getting answers. She gets some answers by the end. She also deals with some not so great stuff. As a result, things kind of just get put out in the open. So Luke is, not only does he find out that he's been sleeping with a married woman, and he didn't know that, the married woman finds out that Jessica wasn't actually hired by her husband, so her husband found out. And then we got probably the coolest fight scene ever. That was like the funniest fight scene, I think, of one of the funniest fight scenes I've ever seen. Because for both of them, it's like, okay, there's nothing happening. I figured it was Luke Cage. This one obviously confirmed it, especially by the end. But, even when as soon as he started fighting, I was like, okay, he's Luke Cage. Because he had the super strength, and he was just, I think my favorite part was he blocked somebody and basically just he flailed his hand. He didn't use any force. He was just like this and backhanded the guy. And then someone else came. He was just and used one hand and he barely touched him. And the guy went and flipped on the table and everything. I'm like, okay, this is really funny because she's grabbing people and tossing them around. I don't know if he's been training or something, because it seemed like he was blocking a lot of stuff, and he was of course he can't he can't really be touched or anything like that. So maybe that's what it was. He's kind of used that to his advantage to just see how people are doing it, just to counter. But their fighting styles was he was just blocking everybody and just be boom, and use one hand. And of course Jessica's using everything she can. She's socking people and just messing them up real bad and throwing people and kicking people. So it was just a really funny fight that I definitely enjoyed. And they were just beating people up left and right. One person gets tossed here, one person gets tossed there. Definitely a fun fight. A nice reveal at the end of the episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of mess around with that, because Luke Cage is going to eventually be getting his own thing. So I'm wondering how they're going to do that, because if they do end up together, because in the comics they end up married, I don't think they're going to, kind of end up doing that in one season. But if they end up being a couple in this series, then I'm wondering if it'll basically be the both of them by the time Luke Cage gets his own show, or, how they're going to do it, if maybe he gets a prequel series or something like that. If they don't do a lot of backstory for him here, his story will lead into Jessica Jones, and they'll kind of do it that way. But I like the fact that they did that real fast. It was this is Luke Cage, look at him fight, they toss the guy, get stabbed in the neck, nothing happens. Uses the circular saw and everything, which you think there'd be an easier way, just have a knife and just boom, stab yourself. I believe you have powers. You don't have to go full, destroy a circular saw to prove it. Just, you can stab yourself in the eye and boom, I believe you or something. Which, CG-wise, I don't know how difficult that would have been, but, just boom, done. It wouldn't have been as special. There would be no sparks or anything, so I guess that makes sense too. It's oh, let's, kind of fancy it up. But I like that reveal. I like the fact that Jessica was using, it was a lot of her private eye skills, which in the first episode it was as well, but a lot of it was, here's this character, here's that character, and here's just Jessica Jones. It was more about her character, not what she does. And this one was really she's using her investigative skills to find Killgrave and figure out how he survived this car crash, or bus crash, really. We got the really sad scene when she goes and sees the EMT guy, or the bus driver, and I believe he was the EMT. I can't remember if he was the bus driver or the EMT, but either way, Killgrave was well, I want both his kidneys. So, which I was wondering, I was why would he give away both his kidneys? That seems stupid. And I guess it just didn't dawn on me oh, maybe he was mind controlled. It didn't occur to me at all until the very end when they were actually talking about it. Oh yeah, that should have been a little obvious to me. If he didn't die from that, whoever's kind of screwed over but still alive definitely got their mind controlled. So that was kind of messed up. That was a really sad scene. And he's he wants her to kill him, and she can't do it. And it's just that was just a really sad moment. It's man, this show is so dark in such a different way from Daredevil. It's a psychological dark, where it's would I have done that? The choices and the options and just the mental torture that people are placed under because of Killgrave, and we see him at the end of this episode, and he just goes into a place. It's like, you invite me in. He puts the kids in the closet. The girl pees on herself and stuff, and it was just like, man, that it just makes him the worst character ever. Like, he's so much worse than Kingpin. Like, I hate him way more than Kingpin, and it's only been 2 episodes, and he's just like the worst person ever. He's the person that does mind control that we don't ever really see. Like, every time you see someone with telepathy, it's always like, oh, I'm a good guy, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that. There's only been one other time I've ever seen anyone have mind control powers and use them for bad, and that was in the show Alphas on Sci-Fi. And even that wasn't as bad as it is in here. He's just like, whatever. It's almost like just sheer torture, what he does to people, and it just screws them over. So I love how they're playing it. It's just freaky how menacing it is. Like, I think that's the big thing. It's just really creepy and freaky all at the same time. And it's just the way that he does things, and it just makes it so terrible to see that happen to all these other people. But it was definitely a great second episode. Like I said, one of the funniest fight scenes I've ever seen, because it's like, one person, he has impenetrable skin. The other person, she's got super strength. They both basically have super strength. And I don't know how Jessica Jones' powers work, because I know with super strength, you could technically have, like, nearly invulnerable skin. So I don't know if that's how they're doing it with her character or not. But, you know, they both have super strength. Depending on how they do it with her power, she does also have, like, at least nearly impenetrable skin. Like, nothing can get through Luke Cage's skin. Maybe something, it would have to take, like, a ton of force to get through Jessica's, but, you know, because she has so much strength, or, you know, super strength, it would take a lot. So it's basically the same for both of them. I don't know, but love the fight scene. Love just all the craziness, and like how she, and this kind of ties into the first episode where she mentions how people blame her as the messenger for, like, this happened or that happened, and it could be her fault. We really don't know, because she said that it was her husband, the woman's husband, and that wasn't the case. So now it's like, was she just stalking Luke just because, or was there actually someone else that hired her? And it's kind of weird, because it's like, well, if it was just her, for what reason then? Like, would it be just to sleep with him? Which she mentioned that she shouldn't have done that before, both because she got caught and because it was wrong. But, you know, it's just weird. It's like, well, it makes me wonder if it really was just her, or if someone else actually did hire her to kind of keep tabs on him and, you know, figure out what was going on. But definitely a great second episode. Really looking forward. I guess considering they mostly showed the villain, like, they won't, you know, show his full face, even though I've seen it from the trailer. But since they've actually done a full scene where it was really him in the scene, I'm assuming we'll actually get to see him physically in the next episode. His face will really be lit up and everything. So kind of looking forward to that, because if they show him, then it's going to be of some importance. Like, they aren't going to do that until either he runs into Jessica, which probably wouldn't happen in the next episode, or it would have to be someone else. Like, it could be Jessica's friend, possibly, and who we also see training and stuff. Like, she had those bruises early on, and I was trying to figure out, because they were so small at first, I was like, are those, like, tattoos? Like, tiny tattoos? But they were all red, so I was like, they have to be bruises. But it didn't make sense, because I'm like, okay, she has these bruises, but the guy knows what they're from, and it's just like, why she got all these marks on her and stuff. And then we see that she's training at the end of this episode to basically make sure she's fast enough not to get shot in the head. And I'm assuming it's because she's training, because she knows that it's a possibility that with Killgrave actually being back, she could have a gun pulled on her at any time, and she really needs to train. And we also see her nose bleeding into the glass of water. I don't know if that has something to do, I would assume it has something to do with her health, and it's not just like, oh, sometimes she gets a bloody nose, because that does happen for some people, but generally when it happens, it's something really serious. So I'm not 100% sure what the case is on that, but it's obviously going to come up, because you don't just have a scene and it's like, oh, you know, I'm bleeding from my nose and everything. But we'll see how it plays out. But definitely love the second episode. Hopefully we get, you know, it probably won't be another action scene in the next one, but I feel like there might be a lot more mental torture coming up, considering Killgrave had his own little scene at the end of this episode. So we might get a lot more of that in episode 3, but either way, I'm looking forward to it. This is a really good second one. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know, like, my big question is what you guys thought about the fight scene. Because obviously I loved it. I just thought it was really funny. I wasn't expecting it to be like it was. Like, it was kind of cool at first, because, like, when you can kind of see it and they sort of pan away. But when the guy throws, like, the first punch at Luke, he doesn't even move. He's just like this. He, like, slightly moves his head and catches the fist. And then, you know, it kind of goes into the whole thing. And it was like, when that first happened, I was like, oh, that's really cool. He's going to be, like, dodging and doing this and that. And then it just became funny because he was, like, so deadpan. There was, like, no emotion because it's just like, you can't, you know, nothing's going to work here, you know. And, you know, basically use his finger and, like, launch a guy across the room type of stuff. So he's just, like, got no expression on his face. Jessica's, like, really getting into the fight as much as she can. And she's, like, flipping people over and judo throws and all sorts of stuff. And he's just, like, slamming people on the bar, you know, toss you off a table with one hand and all sorts of silly stuff. So it changed from being like, oh, this is going to be a really cool fight from him dodging and countering to just, this is so silly and over the top how bad they're beating these guys up. It's just hard not to be funny, but it still was still cool because it was a good action scene. But it was just so funny how bad they were beating these guys up, and at the same time they weren't. Well, Jessica was like kind of just whooping on the guy. She was like whacking them with the payphone and everything. She was like destroying them. But with Luke, it was just funny. It was just like, all right, you get over there, block this, push you down, and it was just really fun to watch. So I loved it, of course, but. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.